main inspiration was just I wanted to tell a story about young people and young people growing up in the city that I grew up in. And I made a film called The Wood that was about three friends growing up in Inglewood, California. And at the time I was thinking about writing Dope, I really wanted to sort of reevaluate what I was doing as an artist and a filmmaker, and I felt like going back to my hometown and going back to this type of story, but for a new generation with a new voice, was what I wanted to do. Malcolm lives in an environment that's really tough and challenging, and I always say that when you grow up in environments like this, you don't really have good and bad choices, but bad and worse choices. And so Malcolm has real ambition. He doesn't want to be defined by his environment or anything. He wants to be an individual. And so his ambition and struggle to remain an individual is a lot of what the film is about. And so in that journey and in that process, he finds himself having to make decisions that most kids don't have to make. And it's played for humor and comedy, but what I really wanted to do was sort of highlight this world and these kids, and just this, kids that are trying to do better, but oftentimes their surroundings and circumstances make that a challenge to happen, and you have to be really extraordinary to overcome them. And Malcolm is a very extraordinary kid. So, I met Forrest Whitaker on my last film. We worked together. He was the lead actor in my last film, and we formed a friendship and a relationship. And so he really, when I thought about Dope and who I wanted to collaborate with, he was someone that was right at the top of my mind. And so he produced the film. He helped raise the financing for it, and was the narrator. And so I love the relationship that we have, and the collaboration I hope continues. We talked a lot about basically camera movement and how we wanted to use that. I mean, in terms of the look, we wanted it to feel, both in terms of the camera work and when I got into the cut doing the editing, we wanted it to feel like the 90s independent cinema. These characters were obsessed with 90s hip-hop, so we wanted to stay true to that feel, and so we referenced films like Boogie Nights and Jackie Brown, and Menace to Society, and a lot of the great films that were coming out during that period. I listen to a lot of music, and music is a big part of my creative process, and so it's always naturally part of what I do. And I think even the way that I structured the film and wanted to tell the story of this movie was more, it's structurally like an album. I feel like I wanted it to be like one of those, again, classic 90s hip-hop albums, which told stories and took you to different places, and you went on an adventure. And so, I wanted to work all of that in, and I felt like these kids who want to express themselves artistically would, express themselves through music. And I felt like the music that they would play would be a lot different than the music that they listen to, and that they listen to punk, they listen to hip hop, they listen to reggae, they listen to old, hits, they listen to contemporary music. And we have access now to so much at the touch of a finger, that I felt like they wouldn't have boundaries on what their music sounded like. So Pharrell Williams wrote and composed all of the music for the film, and he had that spirit in mind, and it was a real cohesive part of the voice of the movie. We've mainly just talked about the film and the characters. He's in addition to the music, he's an executive producer, and so we spoke about this world and these kids that live in this world, and what, again, that music that would come from this band would sound like. And at that point, my job was done, and Pharrell goes and created based on all of that, and it really set the tone, I think, for the feel of the film. It really set the tone for the voice of the movie. His music was the voice of these kids, and those lyrics that he wrote for the song represents, you know, Malcolm's voice in so many ways. And so you know, there was a real connection, I think, that he had to the characters, and it came out in the music. And so we were in the studio, we recorded all of the music the week before we shot. Those are the 3 lead actors that are singing, that's all them. And he worked with them in the studio for 2 days and recorded 4 songs, which is pretty crazy. But they all, you know, were such an integral part to the storytelling.